Hello again. Hawk's Landing here. I've yet to be freed from my cubic prison. The provisions have run out, and I've had to resort to consuming the dreaded super noodles. And let me tell you, super noodles taste bad enough. Never mind the rainwater I had to use to make them, and the fact that I had to use my radiator to heat them up. I burnt myself many a time on the radiator noodle water. But anyway, that's what's happening with me. Just chilling, hoping someone comes to me soon before I waste away to practically nothing. Festering in my squalor. I'm sorry, folks, but I've grown accustomed to having fictional characters arriving in my home and talking to me in a picture frame, like a framing device. I'm not sure if it relates to what that means, but whatever. I guess no one is going to come to visit me. Which I guess is a good thing. But anyway, as no one seems to be coming, I'll just talk about myself. Minus the locked-in situation, I'm doing pretty well. The mask issue is still here, but I'm learning to live with it. Don't get me wrong, I have tried removing it, but I wasn't very successful. You know in the original Ben 10 series when the Omnitrix gets removed from Ben's arm and his skin stretches like string cheese? Yeah. It looked like that and hurt just as much, so I've just accepted that. Funny now that I mention it, like the Omnitrix, this mask isn't coming off. Eating and drinking is quite hard, but I guess a little face protection isn't too bad. Would I prefer not to have this clinging MacGuffin permanently strapped to my face? Definitely. But I will get used to it eventually. Speaking of the Omnitrix, it reminds me of a different wrist-mounted implement that can transform beings. The Mega Ring from Pokemon X and Y. Let's talk about this pair of Pokemon games, the good aspects, the bad aspects, and the changes I'd make to both of the good aspects and improve the bad ones. Let's take a look. Pokemon X and Y are a pair of games from the critically acclaimed multimedia franchise Pokemon. They are the 13th set of games, the 15th if you include the Japanese sets of Red and Green and Blue, released mostly worldwide on the 12th of October 2013 as part of the 6th generation of Pokemon. Main series Pokemon games, for the most part, are released in sets of 2 with slight differences between either version. Mostly exclusive Pokemon and what legendary Pokemon are relevant to the plot. You play as either Caleb or Serena, depending on your choice of gender, as you travel from the Alluring Kalos region, which is off the country of France. You travel with your rivals, Shauna, Tiano, Trevor, or either Caleb or Serena, depending on who you choose to play as. You fight against the evil Team Flare, who want to use a giant laser to kill all Pokemon and everyone who isn't one of them. Insert 1% metaphor here. Pokemon X and Y were the first mainline Pokemon games on the 3DS, are the 5th best-selling mainline Pokemon games, and are the 2nd best-selling 3DS games minus Mario Kart 7. I apologise for this info dump right at the start, but I promise, the rest of this won't be as number-heavy or full of boring info. Probably. At least for the positive and negative points. Speaking of... there is a lot of things to criticize X and Y about. It wouldn't be fair to do so without acknowledging the good things you can find in them. You cannot criticize the bad without praising the good. I'm sure there's some kind of philosophical quote about this, but I made it for this my philosophical quote degree. So let's move on. As you'd expect from a region based on France, the Kalos region is one of beauty. From the beautiful vistas of Anastasia City, to the grand majesty of Lilia City's Prism Tower, and the overpowering feeling of, power coming from the Pokemon League. France's mystique and grandeur come across naturally. Many of France's most famous landmarks are shown through a Pokemon League lens, like the aforementioned Prism Tower being a stand-in for the Eiffel Tower, the Palace of Versailles being replicated by the gorgeous Parfum Palace, and the Tower of Mastery depicting Le Mont Saint-Michel in all its wonder. The region even has the star-like shape of France, a great depiction indeed. Just like the region, the people of Kalos also possess designs full of grace and beauty. You don't have to look far to find an example of closure and majesty. Just take a glance at Diantha, the champion of Kalos' Pokemon League, the person at the top of the Pokemon battle food chain. As you can tell from her appearance, Diantha takes inspiration from the legendary actress and humanitarian Audrey Hepburn. She also shares Hepburn's acting chops, as well as her want to help others. The beauty, as they say, is inside and out. The Pokemon of Kalos also have an air of beauty, as well as airs of other wonderful archetypes such as power, creepiness, and downright awe. From Aurora's sails emulating the wonder of the Aurora Borealis, Aegislash' shield and sword combination being both cool and elegant, Trevenant's creepy aura working in tandem with its creative design, Rivellon's numerous different wing designs showing the vastness of the creative potential of the minded Game Freak, and Malamar's unique evolution gimmick which works to improve its concept to even higher caliber, the Collision Pokemon are one of the strongest groups in the franchise, with only one or two stingers in the whole bunch. I'm looking at you, Aromatisse, you horrible, horrible thing. Speaking of the Pokemon, not only do their new faces have bountiful qualities about them, the old favourites do as well. In comparison to other games, especially the original Sinnoh Pokedex, the original Pokedex of X and Y is one of the strongest in the franchise. Out of the 721 currently existing Pokemon, 457 are represented in the regional Pokedex of Kalos. That's about 63% of all Pokemon. That's taking into account that the Dex not having any of the 45 Pokemon part of the previous region starters, and numerous legendary Pokemon which wouldn't make sense due to how they are exclusive to their own regions for the most part. The Pokedex is split into 3 parts, the Coastal, Mountain, and Central Pokedexes. Each has plentiful amounts of Pokemon from all currently existing regions, quite their available cornucopia of creatures. Along with a plethora of new Pokemon, the gameplay specifics would change quite a lot as well, the most notable being the introduction of the Fairy type. It was introduced to counter the overwhelming power of the Dragon type, only previously hindered by Steel, Ice, and itself. Fairy is immune to Dragon type moves and is super effective against the type itself. Fairy itself can be quite overwhelming, but not as much as Dragon type was before it. Mega Evolutions were introduced as well, a way for certain Pokemon to go even further beyond. Sorry. Anyway, when holding their respective Mega Stones, Pokemon attain a new, more powerful form, sometimes gaining new typings and abilities, making them an asset in battle, despite how morally wrong it is to use them, considering the extreme negative repercussions many Pokemon have to endure whilst being Mega Evolved. But that's another story. Sky battles that can only be fought by airborne Pokemon, and the rebalancing of weather were also introduced, but they have less to talk about, so let's move on. The bottom screen features are an improvement from the previous generations, with the Play Search System, or PSS, centralizing all online and local communication features regarding Pokemon battling and trading, Pokemon and Me letting you feed and pamper your Pokemon in a Tamagotchi-like fashion, just about the cleanup, and Super Training giving you the opportunity to buff your Pokemon stats through short and fun mini-games, earning a plethora of reward items. The ease of progression is another positive factor. Through the combination of the Battle Chateau, a facility where you can fight numerous trainers with very generous prize money give-outs, O-Powers, special effects that can boost your experience gain and battle winnings and early access to the Amulet Coin, an item that boosts your monetary intake by 2 times, you can progress with the game at a steady pace. The reliance on hidden machines, or HMs, was in decline. HMs are items that change Pokemon moves that help your exploration, such as Surfer crossing bodies of water, Fly for soaring through the skies, and Rock Smash for, well, smashing rocks. In X and Y there are 5 HMs, Cut, Fly, Surf, Strength, and Waterfall. Only 2 of them, Surf and Strength, are necessary for beating the main game, and 1 of the 5 HMs are pretty good moves, so having them isn't much of a burden. X and Y were the games that introduced character customization, besides that of choosing your character's gender. The base choices regard your gender, skin colour, and other choices regarding hair length, hair colour, eye colouring, clothing, and accessories. This makes the experience of playing these games a more personal one, expanding on making Pokemon more of an RPG. The final positive aspect of X and Y is one often derided by the Pokemon fanbase: the post-game. Pokemon post-games, a bonus story that takes place after the game's main plot, are varying quality, but by most people's standards, X and Y's post-game is quite lackluster. That couldn't be further from the truth. X and Y's post-game is a logical extension of the game's main story, following the machinations of Xerosic, a scientist of Team Flare, and his manipulation of a young orphan girl, Emma, turning her into his puppet, Essentia. You, and Lucca, international police officer introduced in Pokemon Platinum, fight Xerosic and his evil plans. A very interesting story. Now, time to talk about the more negative aspect of these games. A very common criticism of X and Y is that the game feels quite slow. As Game Freak's first venture into 3D, they hadn't developed the knack for fluid 3-dimensional movement, so the characters feel like they move quite slowly. The battles also feel quite slow, with the health bars, attack animations, and other in-battle effects taking a bit longer than preferable to execute. Another point that originates from X and Y being Game Freak's first 3D game is that the 3D models can look a bit lifeless. I'm not a stickler for amazing graphics or animations, but the in-battle models for the Pokemon and the overworld models for the trainers can look a bit lifeless. The Pokemon have about 5 animations for using moves and other battle effects, and the trainer models have even fewer animations. Not the biggest issue, but one that should be noted. These next 2 points both come under the umbrella of the criticism of the games being too easy. The composition of the teams of 90% of the boss characters, the gym leaders, rivals, evil team members, and so on and so forth, was not done too well. The team that epitomizes this is the team of Wulfric, the 8th gym leader. Despite having the highest level Pokemon of any 8th gym leader, an average of 8 levels higher than a Champion Lance's team from Heart Gold and Soul Silver, he A. only uses 3 Pokemon, B. only uses a single Collision Pokemon despite Oros existing, C. his Abomasnow only has 3 moves, and D. despite the fact that a Magma Abomasnow is a thing, and that he already uses Abomasnow, he doesn't use a Magma Abomasnow. In short, pretty much every boss trainer suffers from these 4 issues. Speaking of Magma Abomasnow, despite the fact that Magma Evolution, despite its immoral nature, is a new gimmick for X and Y, and somewhat relevant to the story, only 4 trainers use a Mega Pokemon. Karina uses Mega Lucario, Diantha uses Mega Gardevoir, Lysander uses Mega Gyarados, and either Caleb or Serena uses Mega Absol. Sun and Moon and Sword and Shield utilize their new gimmicks, Z-moves and Dynamax, much more effectively, and they arguably are less relevant to the overall stories, at least in the case of Z-moves. The use of certain characters could also be improved. There is a trio of characters introduced in X and Y that, if utilised to their potential, could have made the story even more compelling. The characters in question are Professor Sycamore, Colossus Champion Diantha, and Team Flare boss Lysander. There is a single interaction between Diantha and Lysander, and Diantha and Sycamore, and Lysander mentions that he learned from Sycamore. They met each other a few times thereafter, but that's about it. In the anime, both specials and normal episodes, the relationships between these 3 are capitalised on more, developing their characters further in the games. Another character that could have had more prevalence is Malva, a member of both the Elite Four, as well as Team Flare, as well as the sole newscaster of Kalos, of which the technology was invented by Team Flare. They could have built on the idea of Team Flare controlling the media, which was actually part of the Pokemon Adventures manga. Not saying that Pokemon should become a political thriller, like, I don't know, 7 Days of May, Snova, Libero, but you get what I mean. Pacing, when talking about video game progression, is a different idea than pacing in regards to the story. Gameplay pacing relates to the time between bosses and main story points. X and Y use 2 main pacing issues, one for game pacing, and one for story pacing. For game pacing, the time between challenging the Sandloom Stage gym leader Viola and Silent Shades gym leader Grant is notably higher than the other gyms. The level of Grant's high level Pokemon, well both of them are the same, but you get what I mean, is over double the level of Viola's highest level Pokemon. Most walkthrough YouTube series have numerous episodes between these gyms. When it comes to the story, Lysander's reveal of villainy comes out of nowhere. Ignoring the fact that he was obvious he was the leader, due to a shared killer scheme with the team's members, he reveals himself suddenly, and with no build-up. Like Prince Hans from Frozen, who also happens to be a redhead with royal connections. Coincidence? Probably. Another issue, which could be emblematic of Game Freak's uncertainty regarding the game's reception, is that the games are full of nostalgia bait, certain aspects of fictional media that pander to the fans by referencing older things in the franchise. The nostalgia bait found in the case of X and Y comes from the first games, Red and Blue. You get a Kanto starter from Sycamore for no reason. Charizard and Mewtwo both get 2 Mega Evolutions for no reason. Mewtwo is just in a random cave for some reason. The legendary birds are also in Kalos for some reason. And Pikachu, only Pikachu, has an anime voice for some reason. New installments should be able to stand on their own and not be propped up by older things. There are numerous occasions in X and Y where mysterious occurrences, hidden messages, and invisible locations are shown that likely had cut content based on them. The Lumiose Ghost Girl is never explained, the Lumiose train station message is never elaborated on, and the bonus room at the Kalos power plant is never enterable. All these unanswered mysteries being present with no resolution can make the game feel empty. A lot of possible content, likely for a Pokemon Z, led into the next generation's games. Sun and Moon, Dexio and Cena from X and Y show up. I want the player to help them complete Zygarde, a legendary Pokemon from X and Y, to its original 100% power. Its Serpentine appearance is at its 50% form. A third member of the legendary trio gaining a new form is something that typically happens in the second iteration of a region's games, of which they are on the box art of. Look at Garatine's origin form in Platinum, both of Kyurem's fused forms in Black 2 and White 2, and Necrozima's numerous new forms in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon. X and Y are sometimes compared to Diamond and Pearl, typically because of the slowness of the gameplay. Platinum fixes for Diamond and Pearl, as well as a myriad of other issues, but there never was a Pokemon Z to fix X and Y's issues. Well, I plan to fix that. Next time. We are at the halfway point, doing great so far. Come back next time for part 2. Stay our pace and bed build. Laters.